Welcome to the Sports Talk ATL podcast. It's Friday, which means, well, fuck. Well, I guess,
What does that mean, dude?
yeah. We should come in like it's Friday.
Oh my god. Just
All right. Welcome to the Sports Talk ATL podcast. The day after the NBA draft. Here with my co-host Michael. God damn it, dude. What's wrong with me? I hate doing the intro. Like once I get going, it's fine. The intros are so awkward.
Yeah, the intros are gay.
Alright, I'm about to just fucking do it and stop being a pussy. Welcome to Sports Talk ATL podcast. I'm your host Harrison Coburn with my co-host here Michael Arkin.
What's up, everybody? Oh, do you not want me to say anything?
No, you're good.
All right, my bad. I fucked you up.
Let's just do it one more time. Okay. Welcome to Sports Talk ATL podcast. It's our third episode. I'm Harrison Coburn. I'm here along with my co-host Michael Arkin. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm great today, man. We got some We're going to talk about the Jeff Teague trade. We're going to talk NBA draft. We're going to talk some free agency. We're probably going to talk a little bit about the Braves, and that's it.
We got a lot to talk about today. This is probably the most exciting time of year for NBA armchair GMs like us, thinking, who do I want my team to sign? Who do I want my team to draft? They do a pretty good job with, the excitement of the NBA is peaking right after the NBA Finals, and they jump right into the draft within the week, and then free agency the next week. So
there's no offseason.
No offseason NBA. They'll be playing in a month summer league. It's one of the best parts about basketball to me. Honestly, it's almost a year-round game, but let's jump into it. First thing we got here, Jeff Teague.
What do you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it. We know this out, don't worry.
Yeah. All right, so as Harrison said about Jeff Teague, what happened earlier this week, we're going to recap it. Jeff Teague was sent back home to Indiana. Indiana sent George Hill to Utah, and Utah sent their 12th pick to Atlanta. So now Dennis Schroeder is going to be running the point guard. This is his team now. He's got the keys to the city, basically. Or no, my bad. He's got the keys to the team, and he's going to lead us. And what do you think about this, Harrison? I honestly like the trade because we got something out of nothing.
Well, we'll get into Dennis Schroeder being the starter in a second here. I'm going to give you my perspective on the trade before we made the draft pick. I thought getting the 12th pick for Teague was a very good deal because I wasn't really sure what his value was when we dangled him around the trade deadline last year. Our potential returns didn't look all that great. Now, would I've rather have, maybe thrown in our pick even and gone a guy like Rodney Hood or Alec Burks since they have two shooting guards? Absolutely, but I'm happy with getting the 12th pick. I think that's decent value. I just can't really believe, and I'm bigger on George Hill than a lot of guys. I don't even think he's that big of a step down from Jeff Teague, but I just can't believe Utah just gave away their first rounder for George Hill. That's still it's kind of perplexing to me.
I agree.
Now, I think a lot of people are saying with Quinn Snyder, he's a better fit for their offense, and obviously they do need a point guard, and the market's a little iffy this year, but I mean, Snyder coached Jeff Teague forever. I'm surprised that he wasn't interested in bringing in Teague himself, but I think ultimately George Hill, maybe he was just a better fit for their offense. I don't know, but I like Indiana going forward now. I mean, they've put together a nice little team the past week.
Yeah, exactly, man. They could make some noise in the Eastern Conference this year. But let me go back to something about the Jeff Teague trade. I just said we got something out of nothing. Let me rephrase that. We got something in the fact that if we kept Dennis Schroeder and Jeff Teague, there probably would have been some more problems this year. And I think Jeff Teague would have ended up walking. And Dennis Schroeder, Philadelphia could have thrown him a max and he could have gone, and we could have been screwed and have to find a point guard of the future again. So when I said I have nothing, I meant at least we got something. And like you said, the 12th pick is a good value.
Well, the Hawks really had two options here. they either could deal Jeff Teague and pay Dennis Schroeder next year, which is inevitable, but with the spike in the salary cap, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I don't know if all this maxing out Dennis Schroeder talk is legit or not, but even if they do have to, like, they see flashes of greatness this year. They're comfortable giving him that money. There's a lot more wiggle room financially now, just given just a rare state of the NBA money wise, all this TV deal money kicking in.
And we
But
talked about this. We said that Dennis Schroeder, I mean, he's only 22, man. He's got all the superstar intangibles that can come. You just got to give him some time. And now seeing him as a starter, it might not come next year, but if we keep riding with him, I mean, he's got really high potential.
I'm confident with him going forward. There are a lot of advanced stats that actually showed the Hawks were better with him on the floor last year. And I mean, Jeff Teague's in his prime, and Dennis Schroeder is still on his rookie contract. So, as I said, the Hawks had two options. Their other option would have been trade Dennis Schroeder for another young piece or a high draft pick, and then Jeff Teague's probably going to say, okay, like, they have confidence in me as their point guard. I'm going to resign. But you also have to think, the Hawks may just be trying to get a little younger here. A lot of people are suggesting that they're going in on the all-in rebuild. I mean, I don't think that's a thing because they really only have one guy who they can really move for assets here, and that's Paul Millsap at this point. I mean, Kyle Korver's not going to get you much value, so I don't know how much a full rebuild really makes sense here, but I mean, with the draft picks, they go younger, and starting Dennis Schroeder, they go younger. And there's two kind of teams in the NBA, and there's teams that are good and just aren't good enough, which is what the Hawks have been for seemingly forever now. And then there's the teams that are making moves to try to become contenders. And I think what you're seeing here is the Hawks are trying to keep together like a decent core, but they're still trying to make a push to become a better team. Like, I don't know. If they re-sign Al Horford and Kent Bazemore both, then I think they're kind of accepting mediocrity here, and they just took the easy way out with the Jeff Teague deal. But I'm hoping that they go a little younger here and try to make a push to really become a force in the East instead of just another team.
Exactly. So speaking of going younger, let's talk about our draft picks that we got last night. We got Taurean Prince at the 12th overall pick. He's from Baylor. He's 6'8", small forward. We also got DeAndre Bembry out of St. Joe's. He's 6'5", and he's a shooting guard, but he's also a small forward. He played the 3 in college. And Harrison, I absolutely love the Bembry pick. I've always been all over this guy. I absolutely love that pick. Oh, wait, I already just said that. What is the other guy's name? I forgot his fucking name.
I was going to say, yeah, and then the second round, we went and got Isaiah Cornier. I think he's a wing from France, I believe.
Yeah, 19 years old.
And then we brought in Matt Costello, and you watch a lot of college hoops, so I'm sure you'll be familiar with Costello. We'll get to him first. Let's talk Taurean Prince here. Obviously, all comparisons to DeMar Carroll, whether it's appearance-wise or skill set-wise, I mean, it's almost like having a clone. But when you watch this guy play, he looks like DeMar Carroll, but it looks like he's a little bit better, like off the bounce. Like, I'm not gonna say he's a shot creator because he's not that by any means, but he is a lot better than DeMar Carroll in that regard. I mean, he's still that guy who's gonna play great defense and just be an outside floor spacer and stay on the wing and run some backdoor cuts. I mean, he's exactly what the Hawks need. My problem here is the 12th pick is like the best pick we've had in God knows how long, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And we have the assets to move up. I mean, in the second half of that is a team has to want to trade back. You know what I mean? Because this was a very top 8 heavy draft, but I was really hoping with all the reports that we were going to dangle both those picks so we can maybe package up our 2 picks and like the Timberwolves first rounder in 2018, that extra pick we have, and try to go with the top guy. Really, when Jamal Murray was on the board at 7, I thought he could be the answer at shooting guard for us in the future. I don't know. I love the fit of Taurean Prince. I just feel like it was such a reach, and I feel like if we had stayed drafted somebody else at 12, we could have used our assets to move up from 21 and move up a few spots and get him. So I mean, there's some mock drafts that have him going late in the first round.
So basically, what I've gotten from Taurean Prince, I'm with you. I think it was a little bit of a reach. It's in my mind, I thought our 21st pick is going to turn out better than him, but I mean, I've told you, I absolutely love Bembry. But let's go over Taurean Prince. He was a 4-year player at Baylor. He averaged around 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists a game. He was named first team All Big 12 last year, and I'm pretty sure he won sixth man of – all right, I don't know. It was sixth man of something. Do I even need to mention that?
No, because that was probably a while ago. I mean, he's been starting for a while now.
Yeah. So Prince, from what I've seen, is a very emotional player. He's a very effective defender. He's got a pretty good three-point shot, and he's just very explosive. I think he shot around 38% in all 4 years from the three. And his junior year, his field goal percentage was 53%, but last year was 47%, which, I mean, that's still very respectable. He's what I've gathered is he's the prototypical 3-and-D player. Everything I've seen, he's the next DeMarre Carroll. He's the next DeMarre Carroll. Listen, I don't like it. I quit with this will fill the DeMarre Carroll role. Carroll's in Toronto, and quite frankly, we need someone who can develop into something better than DeMarre Carroll. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree, and I think that Prince can be better than Carroll. One thing I did want to mention was that, you know, you look at Jeff Teague and DeMarre Carroll, and we've replaced them with Schroeder and Prince, and I think those guys have the potential to be better players than them, which is great going forward for the team. And I think Taurean Prince can start day one. Like, I don't think that's out of the question. I think he's probably going to play a pretty big role his rookie year. I mean, he's already has that NBA ready body, and I think he's ready to D up guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally agreeing with you. As I said, I wanted to take advantage of being this high up in the draft and also having assets. I mean, that doesn't come around any day. There are reports that the Hawks try to move up a spot to get Sabonis. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I would have loved that fit.
I agree.
I mean, talking about a guy who can score and also could be, you know, like, could be the best rebounder in this draft class. If not, he's definitely one of them. And this is a team that's had so much trouble on the boards. I mean, if me being the armchair GM, as I said, I'm going for all the upside here. I think the Hawks did a good job because they got their guy. They got the guy who everybody's, you know, saying Prince is the perfect landing spot for him, blah, blah, blah. I just think it was too early. I wasn't excited when the name came up. And there was nothing to do against him. I think he's going to do well on the Hawks. I just don't think it's good value at 12. That's all it is.
Exactly. And Sabonis, I mean, I think last year he had around 18 points per game and 12 rebounds. A lot of people, I think, are disappointed that Atlanta didn't go with a big man this draft. But the thing is, after looking at a lot of the big men, they really did not produce that much. Like, we're looking at guys, the guy out of Kentucky, what was his name? Sky
Labissiere.
Labissiere. I mean, he was flat out awful last year. He didn't do anything his freshman year. I mean, the reason he was drafted is all based on potential. And then a guy like Deontay Davis out of Michigan State, a lot of people had him mocked in the top 15, but you can ask any Michigan State fan, they didn't believe he was NBA ready whatsoever. And I mean, I know these guys are going to develop, but I think Taurean Prince. Wait.
Taurean Prince is going to be ready to play day one.
That's what I'm saying. And Sabonis he's probably going to be ready. But that's why I don't want the Atlanta fans to worry about this Prince kid, because he's going to be ready year one, unlike most of these big men. I just want everyone to realize that.
Yeah, I mean, big men. I think Sabonis is actually one of the more pro-ready prospects. I think he would have been a nice little fit. I'm not saying he should have been our starting center for next year by any means. It's still going to take him a couple of years to get where he needs to be. I mean, you see that with nearly every big man in the league. But I agree with what you're saying. I mean, you look at Jaylen Brown even at number 3. I love Jaylen Brown. I don't even think he's NBA ready. I mean, a lot of these guys are going to the league way too early, and honestly, it's to the point where there's so many freshmen sitting in that green room that clearly just go and get their year of college done and don't care. Why even make these kids go to college at this point? Honestly, it's a waste of the college's time.
Exactly.
They're wasting scholarships. And they could invest in a player who's probably going to be there in 4 years and help them be a better team. I mean, what good is Deontay Davis doing for a Michigan State team when he's clearly just banking on his potential to get to the league? And maybe he'll help them a little bit his freshman year, but how much is a freshman really going to help Michigan State? You know what I mean? Like, because we're going to talk about Matt Costello here. Like, it's those 4-year college players. Those are the guys. I mean, you know, you have your exceptions. You have your Kentuckys and Dukes that have come out as a product of the rule change. But you look at like your classic teams like Michigan State. You know, you've got the team chemistry, 4 years, like traditional college players. I just think it's kind of ruining college basketball. And we don't have to talk about this too much, but it's just I saw so many freshmen sitting in there last night, and they just haven't proven themselves yet. And it's making the draft even more of a wild card, I think, too.
Yeah, and let me just mention this. There's a lot of people who I've talked to that like yesterday about the draft, and a lot of them were like, I don't even know who the hell that guy is. I don't know who this guy is. Let's see, like a Marquise Chris who went to the Kings. Do you know him or Denzel Valentine? I mean, obviously Valentine was a superstar, but do you know him or Buddy Hield? That's the thing. It's like a lot of people don't even know most of these kids coming in because they play their freshman year and they go get their money. And the thing is, I mean, I know they want their money and everything, but like you said, it's ruining college basketball. There's not much tradition. There's even the Duke North Carolina rivalry games. They're somewhat going downhill because it's an all freshman battle. I would love for it to go back to the 3 years, or you go out from high school. And I mean, the kids from high school didn't really pan out well besides like a Kobe or KG, but it's ridiculous, like you said, with the amount of freshmen that have entered the NBA draft.
Yeah, I agree. And what I think is going to happen is they don't change this rule where you can go straight out of high school. And I think that a lot of these guys came out after their freshman year. I don't know how many of them would have gone to college, whether they knew they could go straight to the NBA. I mean, maybe like a Ben Simmons. You know, there's only a handful of guys who can come straight out of high school and confidently be ready to go into the league. So I don't know how much it affects it, but it definitely does. And I think what you're going to see is like you saw how Thon Maker skipped college, and you know, one guy we're actually going to talk about a little bit in this podcast is Brandon Jennings. I know that's a little random. Like he went and played a year in Europe before going to the league, and Emmanuel Mudiay did that too. I think that's going to start becoming more of a thing. These guys can go and make money. I mean, I understand a lot of these guys. Not everybody comes from a good home situation. A lot of them want to go and they want to make their money, but I just don't think. I think it's just hurting a product that is a great product in college basketball, and it's making the NBA draft a lot more unpredictable. I mean, these teams are very invested, obviously, like the Atlanta Hawks, and the Hawks have gone with guys with more experience. I don't know. It's all a crapshoot to me.
It's all about money, Harrison. It's all about the money, man. That's why these guys are going.
Yeah.
But let's talk about our 21st overall pick, my man DeAndre Bembry out of St. Joe's. So when Taurean Prince was selected, I wasn't very excited, but he's grown on me. But I mean, we talked right after DeAndre Bembry was picked. I was ecstatic about it. Let me tell you why. Last season, he averaged near 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. He is 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. His ball handles are incredible. So he can play the 1, he can play the 2 and the 3. He's one of the most versatile players in this draft class. Last year, he was the A10 and Big 5 Player of the Year. He was a 3-year starter at St. Joe's, and they won the A10 conference last season, 28-8 record. So Bembry was the go-to guy on a team that was 28-8. And let me also go into this. Last year in March Madness, they ended up being the 8th seed. They beat a very talented Cincinnati team, 78-76, behind Bembry's 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. And the next round, they faced Oregon, the number 1 I think they were the number 2 overall seed, but they were 1 seed. Bembry had 16 points, 12 boards, and 3 assists, and they lost by around 6 points. But what I'm trying to say, Harrison, is people need to realize Bembry was the go-to guy at St. Joe's, and they were a very good team at 28-8. He's one of the most versatile players in this draft, and I believe he was one of the steals of the draft, whichever team he went to. But I think Atlanta is a great fit for his game.
Yeah, definitely. I was a little disappointed at the time, just with the draft in general. I was like, oh, we're going to trade up. And then I really wanted Malik Beasley, and he got drafted. But now I've come down to earth a little bit. I mean, both these guys are ideal fits. As you said, Bembry is very versatile. He's probably going to be able to guard anywhere from the point guard to small forward position, which is valuable. I mean, the Hawks are still a defense-first team. That skill set, his versatility, it reminds me a lot of, and I think he has a lot more upside, he's a much better player, but he reminds me a lot of Lamar Patterson in the sense that he can guard a lot of positions and he can do a little bit of everything. The only thing with Bembry is, he's definitely going to have to develop that jump shot more.
Exactly.
On a team like the Hawks, I mean, they live in, I don't want to say they live and die by the 3, but it's definitely a huge part of their game. And hopefully he goes to Hawks University like, Tim Hardaway's done. I mean, he's a guy who I don't know how much he's going to help his freshman year or his rookie year. I think he'll probably see an expanded role as he goes. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a guy that in 2-3 years is definitely going to be giving us valuable minutes. I mean, we've seen what we've gotten out of guys like, I mean, I like Kent Bazemore and I like DeMar Carroll, but those guys are nobodies for the game to Atlanta. I mean, Coach Bud knows how to extract the most out of guys with that skill set, and he's actually a little different. I think he's more like Bazemore than he is like Carroll, but he's different. He's not a clone like Taurean Prince is. He's his own player, but I still think he's a great fit.
Exactly, and like you said, Bazemore was undrafted. Carroll was a nobody before he came to Atlanta. These two guys, Prince and Bembry, were our first-round picks, so I think there's a lot more potential when Coach Bud gets his hands on these guys, and I think he's going to end up making them the players that he really wants. And also to talk about a little bit more about Bembry, because I love DeAndre Bembry.
Go for it. Oh, well, let me say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just pumped that we have a dude with an afro again. I love the afro. I think that's just a classic black man look.
Yeah, I mean Josh Childress.
I'm gonna have to edit out black man so we can be PC, but it's a classic look.
Yeah, I mean you remember Josh Childress. I mean that afro probably was 10 feet tall on his head. But anyways, hopefully Bembry doesn't cut that afro. He's really good in transition. He's very quick. He keeps his head up to find his open players, and he can also lower his shoulder and finish around the rim. What people don't realize about Bembry is besides Ben Simmons, I think he's probably the second or third best passer in this whole draft. I mean, some of his assists last year, finding the right guys at the right opportunity and in the open spots, it was pretty incredible that he could see that. And he also is an incredible finisher. But like you said, I mean, he's going to work on his jump shot, and I bet he'll end up getting past it. And the other thing he has to work on is his turnovers, because I think he had around 2 a game. So he's going to work on that.
A lot
But
of that is he was the guy at St. Joe's.
yeah, exactly. He had a lot of pressure to deal with in last minute situations, all that stuff.
I mean, if you're looking at last season as a whole, what am I looking for?
I don't know.
Something of work. What am I thinking? What's the word I'm thinking of?
Something of work.
Of work, like the whole work, like the whole entire freshman or like last season. I'm trying to think of like what the phrase is. All right, here, body of work. All right.
Oh yeah.
Be like, I mean, if you really look at the body of work last year, DeAndre Bembry was actually, even though everybody's talking about Taurean Prince being a great two-way player and blah blah blah. I mean, DeAndre Bembry actually was a much better two-way player last year. I mean, I think he was actually a better college player than Taurean Prince, and I mean, that was him being a junior and Prince was a senior. And I mean, I know I said that I think Taurean Prince is more NBA ready. I think that's more about his body type. I mean, he's bigger than Carroll, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Bembry is just, he's a smaller guy. I think Prince has more of like an obvious role for him right now, but I think Bembry can be better. I think a couple of years from now, he could be started for the Hawks. That's not out of the question. I think he was a good pick at 21. So I'm keeping my mind open with both these picks here.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see Bembry coming in, not starting next year, but he could play a major key role. And I mean, if I'm wrong about Bembry, everyone listening and you, Harrison, also can give me crap. But I've just been watching him the past 3 years, and he's a playmaker. He's something Atlanta is in dire need for, and hopefully he can transition his great college game into this league now.
Definitely, and I mean, it's always exciting when you see your team take your guy. I mean, I loved Lamar Patterson in college, and he's a guy who, the surplus of 2 and 3s were, there could be other moves being made, but he could be a guy who may end up being out of a job. But I mean, if he stays for the Hawks, like, he's a guy I still think can be a great role player for the team. I mean, it's always exciting just seeing your guy get picked. So it's cool for you. I really wanted Malik Beasley, but it is what it is. I really wanted the local kid. But
it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a good pick. And then we got Isaiah Cornier in the second round. We don't really know much about him. He's definitely going to be one of those draft and stash guys. We had 4 picks and we moved 1 to the Cavs. So,
Harrison, let me say something about this Isaiah Cornier guy.
Yeah, sure.
I think it was a huge mistake drafting him, not because of him, but for the guy that was on the board, Demetrius Jackson, the point guard out of Notre Dame, who averaged around 18 points per game, who was a lot of experts had in the first round. I mean, like you said, we ended up taking Cornier, a shooting guard out of France who is 19, a player we will likely never see wear a Hawks jersey, if I'm going to be honest. And I just think management deserves an F for this pick. But if you bring this up to them and you ask, oh, when's Cornier going to come? They'd probably say, oh, this player will develop and come play in 2045. Don't worry, he'll be right there. I mean, it's just mind-boggling in my mind that you had a proven guard out of Notre Dame who's been an incredible team, and you ended up taking this guy who's probably never going to put on a Hawks jersey. I just think it's crap.
Especially right after they had already doubled down on the wing. I mean, you never know. Maybe this could be the next Manu Ginobili, but I mean, what are the true chances of that? I mean, the Spurs are really the only team you see that are lucky enough to actually like draft and stash a guy and have them end up being a star player. It's a second round pick. I mean, it's whatever. I was kind of disappointed to see them trade that other pick. I really liked that point guard that the Cavs selected with it, that 5'9" kid who just from Oakland who just balls out. I did like the pickup of Matt Costello though. He went undrafted and the Hawks issued him a contract, and if I had to guess, probably non-guaranteed I know he's going to summer league, but he's a guy who, if you watch college basketball, I mean, he was never the guy for Michigan State or anything like that, but he was like a valuable role player for them and very important part of like one of the best teams in college basketball year in year out. I mean, obviously, if he went to a different college, like he could have been the guy where he went. I mean, his numbers aren't great, but he can crash the boards, and I mean, he can help out at the four. Where really all we have besides Paul Millsap is Mike Scott, and I mean, he still has like pending legal troubles. We don't know what the deal with him is going to be. So he's a guy who he has a chance to make the roster next year. So he's intriguing. Yeah, 1 second. Let me take this phone call.
Okay.
Hey, what's up? Just trying to do this podcast. Doing the podcast. It's fun. It's all good. I don't even know if Carson's alive. You should call him. But Jonathan's going with me. I don't know if he's bringing anybody or not. No, he's probably still sleeping. I'm busy. Right? Can you just call him? All right. All right. Cool. Sounds good. All right. Bye. All right. Sorry about that. What was I just talking about? Costello, right?
Yeah, Costello.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot more people know who Costello is because back to our what we were talking about earlier about how he stayed all 4 years, and I mean, everyone probably knows who this guy is. I think he had around 11 points per game and had 8 or 9 rebounds, which is very solid for a big man in college. And I think, like you said, he could develop nice. I think who should be watching his back is Mike Muscala. I think if Costello comes in and plays everything like he did in college, I think he could maybe take Muscala's backup position.
Yeah, I mean, I like Moose, but I thought his game was going to grow a little bit more than it has at this point. And Costello's a guy who he's not going to stretch the floor like Moose does, whatnot. But I mean, I do think he's a better rebounder. I mean, he averaged. You look at those numbers. He said, "Oh, he averaged 8.2 rebounds per game. That's good." And then when you realize that he only played 23 minutes per game, that's damn good. The Hawks have a glaring need at the boards, and it needs to be addressed. And he is a guy, I'm telling you, he could be one of the main role players off this bench in a couple of years. You want to know what his PER was at Michigan State last year?
Let me hear it.
28. So, I mean, this kid's never going to be a starting power forward in the NBA. There's a reason why he didn't get drafted, but I think he could play a role for the team going forward, and it's definitely, a pickup worth mentioning for sure.
Something else worth mentioning is him being a senior, Bembry being a junior, and Prince being a senior. It looks like Coach Bud is very attracted to the players that are playing 3 to 4 years in college. It looks like he's not the biggest guy in the freshman 1 year and done.
He wants guys who are ready to play professional basketball. There's a reason why with a lot of these guys, they sent him over to Europe for a couple of years to play pro ball there. He likes high basketball IQ guys, and it shows on the court the way they play the game. You don't see many selfish players on the Hawks. That doesn't really happen. And I'm not saying that if you go to college after your freshman year, you're necessarily selfish, but I think it means you're not probably polished. And that's what Coach Bud wants. I think it's kind of nipped the Hawks in the butt a little bit, and I feel like they haven't banked on potential as much, and they need that one guy who can really put them over the top. But in turn, they've built a really solid foundation, and it could be that we keep this solid team together, and then with this cap spike, all it takes is one star to come, and we're a team like Golden State Warriors. I'm not trying to draw any comparisons here, but a team that's just so deep.
Yeah.
The Hawks are getting deeper and deeper by the year. I mean, unless we'll get into the pending Hawks free agents here in a minute, but I mean, this team could definitely just be minus Jeff Teague. I mean, that was a move that had to happen, but going forward, I mean, I think it's definitely looking better for the Hawks. I mean, barring free agency, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, these two young guys at a position where we really develop serious talent, and one of these guys, I'm just gonna edit this part out. Fuck it. All right, next thing. Let's talk about.
Wait. One more thing. We got to talk about our draft grade.
All right, yeah.
All right, I got you.
We'll talk. We'll do winners and losers too, but let's make it fast.
All right, yeah. All right, Harrison, real quick. What's your overall draft grade for Atlanta?
I'm giving Atlanta a B minus because I think these guys will undoubtedly help this team, but the Hawks are in a position that they never find themselves in. I mean, I don't see us picking in the lottery due to our record anytime soon under Coach Bud unless things really fall apart. So I think they should have taken advantage of the opportunity and banked on potential here. But you look at both these guys and they fit and they make the Hawks better. And it's hard to give them a C rating when that's the case. But I'm not thrilled with the draft either. I wasn't jumping for joy last night by any means.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Mike?
I'm gonna go a little bit higher than you, not much. I mean, I'm giving us a B. I think Bembry is an A though. But I think the Prince pick. I understand the optimism because, like you've been saying, it was a reach. It was a complete reach. There's a lot of things we could have done with the 12th and 21st pick. We could have packaged them. We could have traded back because I do think Taurean Prince was going to be on the board probably at 21. So, I mean, I'm not really sure.
Maybe at 21, but definitely at like 17, 18.
Exactly. So we could have traded back.
Once Sabonis was off the board, I said to myself, there's one guy I'd like to reach for here, and that's Malik Beasley. I believe in his talent. But otherwise, I was just like, let's just trade this pick for a solid player at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was top 8 or nothing in this draft, really. And the Hawks had the assets to get it done, in my opinion. They had another first rounder this year. They have that extra Timberwolves pick, and they've got extra second rounders and every year for the next few years. They could have made something happen. I can confidently say that I think they could have gone in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings traded their 8th pick for the 13th pick and other, second rounder or whatever. We could have made something happen, and that's why I'm disappointed. I'm just waiting for the Hawks to go all in because they've been doing the conservative thing and they've been getting along, but I'm ready for them to make this push.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep a positive attitude. The last time, under the Danny Ferry, Budenholzer regime, I mean, you can say, oh, Wes Wilcox picked these guys. I still think it's really Coach Bud running the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't make a first-round pick last year, so we didn't really get to see, what direction he wanted to go in. But he did pick up Tim Hardaway, who
Mm-hmm.
I think towards the end of the year people warmed up to, and I still like that trade. But you also have to realize this was the guy with San Antonio who he was the one who said, hey, like, we need to pick this Kawhi Leonard kid. And then, ironically, they traded George Hill, and they had Kawhi Leonard. Now he's a star. Now, I'm not trying to draw any comparisons here. I don't think either of these guys are going to be Kawhi Leonard. But Coach Bud has proven that at the small forward position, he knows what the hell he's talking about. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think, really, any draft, unless it's just like a crazy good, unexpected, great trade, blah, blah, blah. Every draft grade is incomplete because we still don't know.
That's what I wanted to say. I want to tell all the fans listening to this, Harrison and I are giving our opinions right now, but if you want the real opinions, in 3 years, I'll let you know because any sport with the Falcon, like especially with the Falcons in the NFL and basketball, I say in 3 years, that's how you'll know what grade you'll give your draft class back then. So
Definitely, and
I
that's
don't
why.
want anyone rushing to assumptions that these guys are going to be stars, they're going to be role players, they're going to be crap, they're not going to be here in a year. You just got to let time work. These guys are going to get trained by some of the best coaches, and we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago we picked Dennis Schroeder, and now it looks like he could be the future of this team. Definitely at the point guard position, but at the same time, we took Lucas Nagira, and he's flipping burgers somewhere or something. I mean, I think he's still in the Raptors, but I haven't seen him log any minutes.
Played in some playoff games. I saw him.
So I mean, Antetokounmpo was picked the pick before Lucas Nagira, so that one always kills me. But
yeah,
well,
we could be like the Sacramento Kings. I think I read something about how they've had a top 10 pick the past 8 years, and two of those guys are still on the team, Boogie and Ben McLemore. And just for fun, how about we talk about our winners and losers? I mean, we've both agreed on kind of the same teams talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both agree that the losers are definitely the Kings, and it's fitting because, I mean, the Kings front office is full of a bunch of losers. There's a dysfunctional franchise, and my prediction is they'll be in Seattle. They'll be the Supersonics again in 5 years, within the next 5-10 years. I mean,
yeah,
I just don't think it's a big enough market for a team, especially with the garbage they're pulling there. I don't even know they sell tickets. And
yeah, I mean
you've got even Boogie Cousins is tweeting last night, "God give me the strength." I mean, he wants out. It's
awful. I mean, Vlade Divac is an awful general manager. He has no wait. Fuck. Is he the GM or owner? I'm making sure he's the GM, right?
I think he's the owner, dude.
All right, whatever. Vlade Divac has no reason to be working in anywhere in the NBA. He should move to Europe. He's done. He's ruined the Kings. I mean, not just him specifically, but that organization. Oh my goodness. If this was the Hawks, I mean, obviously you have to keep cheering for them, but man, I feel so bad for those Kings fans, man. And the other loser Harrison and I have, it's very mixed all over the internet. We think the Celtics lost. I mean, they had 8 draft picks, and Jaylen Brown, I think he could turn out to be very good, but at 3, I don't know. They could have had Jimmy Butler. They could have had Gordon Hayward. They could have just had superstars, and they decided to fold, and I just don't think it was a very great draft with a team that had 8 picks.
Yeah, I mean, those are speculative options. We don't know exactly who's really on the board, but I mean, it is the number 3 pick, and I'm sure they could have gone something. I like Jaylen Brown, but I mean, this was a guy who I was saying to myself, I'm hoping he falls to 8 or 9. The Hawks are trading up to get this guy. This guy could be our future wing. I mean, that's what I was really hoping for. I thought it was a little bit of a reach at 3, and it may work out. I love Jaylen Brown as a prospect, and I think he's going to be a good NBA player, but he's nowhere near NBA ready, and I don't know what the Celtics' plan is. I mean, I guess they're still going to be rebuilding here unless they really bring in a big-name free agent, which I'm sure is in the plans, but I just don't know. They passed on a lot of guys.
Yeah, the one guy they didn't pass on, Demetrius Jackson, who I mentioned about earlier. Of course, they got him the pick after. And also, we got 2 winners in this draft. The Minnesota Timberwolves. They got Chris Dunn, one of my favorite players in this draft. He was incredible at Providence. I think his game is going to transition into dominating fashion in the NBA, especially with a guy like Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm telling you, not next year, but in a year or 2, they're going to be making a lot of noise in that Western Conference.
I think that they can make the playoffs in the Western Conference this year. I mean, I think just having Coach Tibbs, That makes them automatically a much better team, especially given their personnel. You've got Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, two guys. They're both two-way players, but foundation of their game is deep. They're great defensive players, and Thibodeau is the best defensive coach in basketball. Let's make that clear. And now you add Chris Dunn, who's your point guard of the future. I mean, I love Chris Dunn. So now you've got Ricky Rubio. Zach LaVine, I guess, slides over to shooting guard. They've kind of had him as a combo guard, but you can trade Ricky Rubio and you can trade Shabazz Muhammad here and add another piece. And they have money. I mean, all these guys are on their rookie deal. Watch out for the Timberwolves. I love the youth movement there. And I think Coach Thibodeau also made the right move sitting out a year and waiting for the right opportunity, because he could easily have inherited the Rockets team mid-season and just could be in a nightmare situation right now. So I think it's worked out for Minnesota. I think they should probably take advantage of having these young guys while they can this next 7-year window, and they have Wiggins and Towns, because they'll probably leave for a big market, just knowing how the NBA kind of works. But it's going to be a special team to watch develop next few years for sure.
Exactly.
And then my other winner was the Denver Nuggets. Two guys I really liked on my Harrison Coburn big board, armchair GM, were Jamal Murray. I really like him, and then also Malik Beasley. So, they get a couple guys who they can pair with Emmanuel Mudiay in that front court next, 4 years. And I think it's just both those guys are great pickups. I think they're both going to be real solid NBA shooting guards.
Yeah, and my other winner was the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think that trade was absolutely perfect for them.
Definitely.
They got Victor Oladipo, who is still developing, but he's very good. And now that he's going to be in a winning culture in OKC, I mean, next to Russell Westbrook and probably Kevin Durant. So, they're going to be a team that's going to be a force if Kevin Durant comes back. They also got Ersan Ilyasova, who could be a good role player, and they got the guy we were talking about out of Gonzaga. What's his name?
Sabonis.
Oh, hang on. They got Sabonis. So I mean, say KD comes back, it's going to be Russ, Oladipo, KD. And then Canner and Adams, and Sabonis will come off the bench. They're going to be getting a lot of rebounds. Let's just say that. But I mean, I love that trade for OKC. Serge, I think, was unhappy, and he started to basically isolate himself. And I just think, like I said, this trade definitely helped OKC, especially if KD comes back.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm a big Victor Oladipo fan. I think he's a very efficient player, and I think he'll really help that team defensively. And you won't have to rely on Dion Waiters and Andre Robertson. I mean, you're not getting offense out of those guys. And if you are getting offense out of Dion Waiters, he's not going to be playing an efficient game. I promise you that. And I mean, another thing you got to consider is who OKC plans on taking. Their plan is to take down the Cleveland Cavaliers. I personally, in Orlando, watched this guy drop 45 points on LeBron James and company back in March. This is just a great pick or a great trade for OKC going forward. I think Oladipo is a stud, and I can't believe the Magic made this trade when I don't know if their plan is to move Aaron Gordon to power forward or, small forward. They have Evan Fournier, who's a restricted free agent. I don't know what they'll do with him. We're going to talk about him in a minute, too. I just don't understand how Serge Ibaka fits into the mix. I see what the Magic are trying to do here. They're trying to speed up this rebuild, but they made the wrong move, I'm telling you.
I agree. Also, how about we talk about this? I think that's a lot about the draft. How about we talk about some free agency since it's coming up in a week? First off, let's start with our own free agents. We got Al Horford, Kent Bazemore, Chris Humphries, and Kirk Heinrich. What do you think's going to happen with these guys?
Yeah.
Let's talk each player.
Well, we'll start here with the big dogs. We'll go with Al Horford here. If you've read my articles or you've listened to me on this podcast, you know that it's not that I'm not the biggest Al Horford fan. I'm not the biggest fan of him as an NBA center, and I think he's a detriment to the team on the boards. And I'm a believer in you put a big man out there and he gets you your boards. You know, I love the traditional defensive Dikembe Mutombo center. I was very excited when it was being discussed that we could get Nerlens Noel. With that being said, if the Hawks can finally make that move to get another great player to add to this team, and you can go over the cap to add Al Horford back, I think that's something you have to consider. You also have to consider. I mean, I think that's the right move. And also, if you look at these other centers, and we're gonna go over a few that the Hawks can look at. If you think you're going to strike out with the rest of these centers, then you could at least bring back Horford and move him in a year or two.
Yeah, I think our plan A for this offseason is we're going to re-sign Al Horford whether people like it or not. Unlike you, I think Al Horford somewhat is a detriment in that he can't get rebounds. I mean, in the when we played Cleveland, I know this Tristan Thompson is a rebounder, but he abused Al Horford. Let me say that one more time. He abused Al Horford. But the thing is, Horford is a very good defensive player. He's a good offensive player. It's just his rebounding. And he's a
power forward.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is. He's a tweener. He's a very, very talented tweener.
Exactly. But, I mean, you can't move Paul Millsap anywhere. He's the best player on your team.
No. I think the Hawks, they still have one of the best backcourts in the NBA. And even though he has struggled on the boards, a lot of that is part of –
Wait. You mean front – say front court.
Front court. Yeah, I get those fucked up. I think Millsap and Horford, those two are still one of the best front courts in the NBA, and I think that's going to be why the Hawks bring him back because, you add a great scorer. You add, not saying we're going to get Kevin Durant, but you add a Kevin Durant to that front court, and you're going to do special things. Rebounding is an issue. I know a lot of that is Coach Bud stresses his players get back on the other side of the court, on the other side of the ball, and go play defense. But I still think that rebounding needs to be more of a part of our identity. We'll talk about some guys I think we could pursue that could help us tremendously in that area. I'm not going to be upset if we bring back Al Horford, but I'm not going to be thrilled either. I can't see us giving him a 5-year max and year 4 and 5 us being happy with that deal. I think we got to sign this guy to a 2-year max like we did with Paul Millsap, maybe with a player option. I know Horford's going to get to decide where he goes, what his destiny is. I don't know how greedy he's going to be. I mean, he's been very loyal to the Hawks throughout his career. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping it's a 2-year max with, maybe a player or team option if that's the direction we go in. I can't lock him up for 5 years. I wouldn't do it if I were Coach Bud and Wes Wilcox.
So the next guy, let's talk about the other big dog, Kent Bazemore. So last night, our general manager, Wes Wilcox, he said this about Kent Bazemore, quote, Kent Bazemore is absolutely a Hawks priority. We love Kent. He's a huge part of what we do, and I don't think there should be any confusion as to how important Kent is to us, end quote. So take that for what it's worth. It could be 100% serious or 100% smokescreen. Who knows what we're going to do with Kent Bazemore? I mean, he definitely did shine when we needed him last year. He was one of the few players in the Cavs series, go back to that, who shined and played very well. But the thing is, with the NBA cap going up, he's going to get paid a lot, and obviously we need to spend our money wisely. I would love for Kent Bazemore to come back. I think he played great, and I think he could keep playing better and better. But if he's going to demand over $13 million a year, I don't want him. I don't want to. Because who knows if he could play like that from last year? That's the thing. What do you think?
You gotta let Bazemore walk here, and I'll tell you why. First of all, yeah, we just doubled down on wings here. And you look back to a year ago, I didn't even think Kent Bazemore was going to be the guy to start. I mean, I thought it was going to be Thabo Sefolosha. And I think a lot of people did.
Wait, do you hear that?
Huh?
Is there like an ad playing?
No, I don't hear anything. Should I not go yet?
Wait, don't say anything real quick. All right, never mind. I think it was. I don't know what it was. All right, keep going. Kent Bazemore. Just start over.
No, it's fine. I remember where I was at.
Okay.
And the team decided, we're going to go with Bazemore at small forward. And out of the gate, I was like, this guy could be an upgrade from Carroll. He's playing very well. But he came back down to earth against all those NBA first units when it came down towards the end of the year. And he had a great defensive year. His defensive win share was great. And he was a big reason of why we are one of the best defensive teams in basketball. But I still think we can get that type of production out of Thabo Sefolosha. He's under contract for one more year. I don't think him starting is much of a downgrade. And then you have these two other wings, so you have a year to develop, and then they'll be ready. Coach Bud has a proven track record of getting, 3-and-D production, and I just don't think it's worth paying for it. And we went through the same thing last year, and they decided, we're not going to pay Damari, and I think that was the right move, and I think doing that again will be the right move. This isn't an Al Horford where, there's only X amount of guys who can play center in this league and be great. I mean, Kent Bazemore is expendable.
Yeah, there's one thing I disagree with what you said. I don't think Thabo Sefolosha can come in and play the way Kent Bazemore or even DeMarre Carroll did. I think Sefolosha's role is coming off the bench. He's getting older. That's the one thing I disagree about. But if he did walk, we do need to have a plan, and obviously we will. Maybe it's these two guys we just drafted in the first round. But like we've been saying, if he wants too much money, he's got to walk. We made the right decision with Damari. I mean, we can develop wing players, and if it comes down to that, it looks like that might happen. But one guy who I want to talk about, especially that I want to bring back, is Kris Humphries. I love Kris Humphries, man. What do you think?
Definitely. I mean, when I was watching that Cavs series, when you're saying to yourself, why is Al Horford
on? You say that, I think I know exactly what you're going to say. Are you about to say, why is Kris Humphries not in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm completely agree with you. Keep going.
All right. I mean, the thing about Kris Humphries is I was watching the Cleveland Cavs series, and I was saying to myself, why is Al Horford even in the game? Like, why isn't Kris Humphries in the game? He was way better in crunch time. And at first he wasn't even getting minutes, which kind of blew my mind because he was great for us in the regular season. So that leads me to believe, it's less and less likely that he's brought back, especially since Thiago's splitter will be ready to go. But if you gave me the keys to the team today, I would say
take Kris.
Yeah, I'm taking Kris Humphries, and I'm salary dumping Thiago Splitter. I mean, I think he has more dimensions to his game. A lot of people criticize his jump shot. I thought he was fine from outside, because most of the time when he took those shots, they left him wide open. I don't think the league really knows that Kris Humphries can shoot three-pointers. But, when we out him, so we're adding like celebrity Kris Humphries. I knew he was good on the boards, whatever. But he turned into one of my favorite players on the team, and I really hope to bring him back. I think he's just a good piece, like just you're trying to be a competitive team, I just think he really helps. Like,
Yeah, and also I really did like Chris, like I've been saying. I think he came in. Even when he didn't shoot well, he got you boards. He gave you extra possessions. That's something Atlanta doesn't really have. And I mean, Thiago Splitter, he was a disappointment last year before his injury. I don't think
well,
he's good.
I think he was playing injured pretty much the whole year. But I was expecting, with the familiarity of Coach Bud, I was expecting him day one to be ready, and obviously you look at the numbers. This was by far, when he came to Atlanta, this was by far the worst season he's had in his career. And you got to realize that he's also 31 years old. 1 year left on his deal. We can wait it out, and he may turn around and have a great year for us next year. But I'd rather sign Humphreys and free up some money. I mean,
Yeah,
I think Humphreys will probably cost a few $1 million less, and I think
yeah, I
he's a
want to talk
better
about
fit
a
for us.
play. Because Chris Humphreys, like you said, why is Al Horford still in the game against the Cavs? And we sat Chris Humphreys throughout the Celtics series, which I didn't understand, but thankfully we won. We sat Chris, I think, the first 2 games, but like in the second game when we were getting absolutely killed, then they shot 25 threes. They could have gone off for 50 threes, honestly. But Chris Humphreys came in garbage time, and he played really well. And I was probably one of the few Hawks fans watching that, and I was like, man, I mean, I don't know what else Coach Bud needs to see. He came in game 3, and he abused Kevin Love when he was on the court. And Kevin Love's one of the NBA superstars. He's one of Cleveland's big 3. And a defining moment was when he crossed Kevin Love, made him fall to his ankles. Everyone went nuts. He created momentum. He got the crowd into it. I mean, Chris Humphreys not only can shoot and not only looks like he can dribble, but like I've been saying, he gets boards. I think it'd be a huge mistake if we ended up letting him walk.
Yeah, the problem is we have Splitter, and as you said, Coach Bud, he didn't utilize Humphreys like he should have, and we've seen how his management of his bigs has been strange. Like, he used to play Pero Ontic all the time, and he was just a walking garbage can. I mean, I just don't get it. I think Splitter overall has been a better player throughout his career than Chris Humphreys, but I think you look at the body of work last year, I think Humphreys occupied that role better. But let's be real here. I mean, I think Hawks are going to let him walk, and Thiago Splitter is going to be the backup center next year. I mean, that's just realistically, that's probably what we're looking at here.
Yep.
And then you have Kurt Conrick. No reason to really bring him back, but with Dennis being the starter now, I mean, we're going to talk about some backup point guards that we may look at in free agency here, but we're still going to need a third stringer. So, I mean, you can't roll out Kirk Honrick not coming back, but I guarantee you he's not playing in more than like 30 games next year if he does. I mean, he's just a body at this point. If he doesn't retire, I mean, he's old.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's talk about free agency here. We have some names we want to look at. This, I guess you say, is our free agency preview here.
Let's have a little buy or sell.
What's that?
Little buy or sell action right here. Who do y'all buy and who do y'all sell? We're going to tell you guys who we buy and sell from the free agents we name.
All right. Well, let's start out with some backup point guards here. Dennis Schroeder, he has been handed the keys to the team, and Coach Bud has shown that he trusts him going forward. But at the end of the day, he is still a young point guard, and I can't stress enough, this is a guy running your team. I think we definitely need a veteran point guard who can just slow things down and come in when Schroeder has those erratic moments and those growing pains. So here's one guy who's had some success in the NBA and is coming off a rough year and could be a nice bargain bin piece, is Brandon Jennings. We talked about him earlier in the podcast when we talked about how he went to Europe instead of going to college. But he was dealt to the Magic this year, and it's seemingly kind of the become a forgotten man. I mean, there was a couple of years where he was one of the up and coming point guards in this league, and now he seems like he's kind of an afterthought. But I think he could be a great addition to the Hawks. I think he's going to give you the best quality backup minutes of anybody on the market, of anybody who's going to probably make under 8 figures here, or 10 figures, or 8 figures.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison and I, we've been discussing and we've been looking at the market for point guards, and we talked about it, Jeremy Lin or Darren Williams, but they're going to get paid 8 figures probably. There's no point in having those kind of guys. I'm looking at a guy like Mario Chalmers. Listen, he might not be the sexiest name, but we're looking for a backup. And Chalmers, he has the experience. He played in Miami, won those championships with D Wade and LeBron. So he knows what it's like to win because he was the starter. He came to Memphis last year, and he actually was playing very well until I think he tore his Achilles. And he's an unrestricted free agent. I just think Chalmers is a good guy to have behind Schroeder, and he can also help Schroeder with his game. It's not the sexiest name, but I think Mario Chalmers could be a good backup.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of a meh pickup. I'm gonna sell on Chalmers here, just because I've watched this guy so many times. I mean, how many LeBron Heat games did I watch? I was never impressed by him. I just think if you spend an extra couple $1 million here with this cap spike, like a guy like Brandon Jennings is just gonna give you so much more than this guy, you know?
Yeah, but do you think of Brandon Jennings? I mean, he's got a big ego, and do you really think he'll come signed to be a backup?
Well, he's a backup right now. I mean, I don't think he has much choice in the matter.
Free agency, I can see him going.
I think
go ahead.
And rebuild his value, and I think Atlanta's like a great place to do it.
I mean, I'd love to sign him if he wants to be a backup, but I doubt he'll come signed to be a backup. I just think he'll go to a middle market or a lower tier team and try to start and resurrect his career. But anyway,
this is a guy who he couldn't start for Orlando last year. I mean, I don't know what happened to Brandon Jennings, but he just all of a sudden. I mean, he's really got to rebuild.
Maybe it was the DeAndre Jordan dunk a couple of years ago. Maybe he hasn't recovered.
I don't know, but I mean, he started a few games for Orlando, but I mean, Elfrid Payton was starting over him. I mean, I'll take Dennis Schroeder over Elfrid Payton any day. He's got to rebuild his value, and I just think if you're an NBA player and you say to yourself, I have to rebuild my value, I think the Hawks are one of those teams you look at and you can really say pretty much, maybe besides like Thiago Splitter or whatever, almost every player who comes to Atlanta and plays under Coach Bud gets better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I just think if you bring in Jennings, he's really the only guy you can bring in and still have that double firepower at the point guard position like we've been so blessed to have this past year. And Coach Bud's made it clear that he loves having 2 great point guards. So that's my guy. Another guy, a guy that I'd like to bring in who's also coming off kind of a down year, and I think may be more of like a third-string point guard, honestly, but Greivis Vasquez, I mean, I grew up a Maryland fan, and I watched them forever, and I've seen him be a role player on some NBA teams, and I know he's coming off kind of a horrendous year, but if you give this guy like a non-guaranteed contract or a $1 million, $2 million deal, he's just a guy that I'd love to bring on board because I know he's got a little bit of talent. I know he's got something left in the tank. He's better than what the stat sheet says.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna buy that if he's a third-string point guard. I'm not buying it as as a backup point guard.
Me neither.
Yeah, but the thing is, like you said, he's got stuff left in the tank. He's been on winning teams with Toronto. He just brings good experience, and maybe, like Coach Bud can help him get back to his game and Who knows? But I don't see him as a backup point guard. I see him as a third-string point guard.
Agreed.
Um,
Do you have any more point guards or no?
well, I was gonna say Ish Smith, but like I was gonna be like, I don't know about him.
Do Ish and then TJ Austin. All you have to do is just be like Ish Smith is a guy that got some starting reps in
Yeah, I got this. I'll go.
Philadelphia, and, yeah.
We'll just move on real quick. And the other guy who I've been thinking about is Ish Smith. But the thing is, I'm not completely sold on him because he played on Philadelphia. He was one of the worst teams ever last year. I don't know if they were the worst. They might have been the worst. But, I mean, he was the only somewhat talented player, and anyone really could put up some good stats. He started most of the games when he went to Philadelphia, but I'm not buying or I'm not selling. I'm in the middle. I just don't know with this guy.
Yeah, I think at the right price, I'm definitely buying Ish Smith. Now, he may end up being a guy who gets overpaid just because he did make a little bit of a name for himself in Philadelphia. I mean, I'm not saying he set the world on fire, but a year ago, the casual NBA fan had maybe heard of Ish Smith, and now they've definitely heard of Ish Smith. But I do think he's got a little bit of talent. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, he was the starter at Wake Forest at point guard over Jeff Teague until he got hurt. So I think he's a guy who will help you, and just being coming off a year where he did start every single game for the 76ers, or I don't think he started every single game,
When
but
he got traded.
Once they came on board, like he started every game he played for the 76ers. Just having that experience, that's what I'm looking for really here is just a guy to bail the Hawks out when Dennis Schroeder has his moments, because it's gonna happen. I love Schroeder, but Ish Smith, he's 27 years old. He's been in the league for a handful of years, and he's ready to handle a backup role. I'm confident with him as a backup point guard.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to some shooting guards.
I got one more. I'm gonna talk about. We'll make it quick.
All right, you got anyone else, man?
And then one other guy that I like is DJ Augustine. I think he's a guy who is going to give you a little scoring as a backup option, and he's been all around the league. He's a little bit of a journeyman, but I think he could help Hawks. Could be a nice little frugal signing for them. He's not going to break the bank by any means, but he's definitely a quality backup point guard. So that's another guy I like to consider. The Hawks, inevitably, unless they make a trade, are going to have to add one of these guys. They have to have somebody who can play quality backup point guard minutes. I mean, this is your game manager. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, let's talk shooting guard here. This is probably, with the exception of Al Horford, if the Hawks are going to make a splash here in free agency, it's likely going to be adding a shooting guard here because, well, let's just be truthful here. Kyle Korver, he's not getting any younger, and he wasn't the same player this last year. And I still think he's a great plus-minus guy, a great role player to have, and a guy where you want to get 20 quality minutes out of him and put him on the floor and make it easier for the rest of your team. But teams have caught up to guarding him, and I'm not comfortable starting him anymore. He's not supposed to be starting in this league. But we have, luckily for us, we have a lot of shooting guard options on the market this offseason. So we add one of these guys, we should be good. Michael, who are a couple guys that you're looking at shooting guard?
Let me name you two players right now, and they don't fit the style we play in, but I think their games would definitely help us. Jamal Crawford and the guy in Cleveland who can't find his shirt, J.R. Smith. I think both of these guys are more ISO players, and we're more of a pass-happy offense. But you honestly need guys that can create their own shot. I mean, Paul Millsap's always going to be our number one guy right now, but you need a clutch shot in a clutch situation. I'd love to have Jamal Crawford. When he played in Atlanta, he always was taking the clutch shot. I mean, I remember that Phoenix Suns game when we won the regular season. He made a game winner. And then J.R. Smith, the Hawk killer. When he is one of the best shooters, I think, easily right now to this day, and could be one of the best to ever, from one of the best ever from the 3-point line. I just think that, like I said, we just need guys that can create their own shot. Those are two guys that I think could definitely help this team.
Yeah, definitely. I think after this little championship run and J.R. Smith's value went down for a while, and the Knicks were awful, and he's got his suspensions, but now he's getting his reality TV show. And another thing a lot of teams have to consider is that J.R. Smith's a guy you can sign, and he's not going to break the bank too much, but people will come out and watch him play. He's an exciting player to watch because you never know what you're going to get. He's either going to give you 2 minutes a night or 2 points a night, or he's going to drop 30. I mean, he's very streaky. But he played good offense, and I think one thing that's underrated is his defense. He played good defense this past year too. As you said, he's more of an ISO guy. We saw how Coach Bud kind of sent Lou Williams out of town right after he put up a great year for us. And I love Jamal Crawford. He's one of my favorite Hawks in recent memory, and it'd be fun to watch him and Kyle Korver run an old man platoon, and he can definitely score. I think Jamal is probably more likely than J.R. Smith because I think he's going to have a cheaper price tag, and I think he has smarter basketball IQ, and he's a veteran, and J.R. Smith can be a little bit of a distraction. I mean, he's not, he's taking his shirt off, and he's –
You think in his reality TV show he's going to have a shirt on?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, it might just be like Jersey Shore, where this half the time he has it on, half the time he has it off.
Obama called Tyronn Lue and told him to keep his shirt on. That's coming from the president. You think JR's going to put his shirt on when the president just told him to?
I mean, it's a free country. That's what I'd say.
I bet he won't. What about you, Anderson? What you got any other shooting guards in mind?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One guy that a lot of people in this league, maybe you'll turn this podcast off, and some people aren't the biggest fans, but we're talking about maturity and J.R. Smith. But I love Lance Stevenson, and I think that he is the perfect buy low guy for the Hawks. You look at guys like DeMar Carroll we're talking about, and Kent Bazemore, guys who are practically unknowns and have just become good players in our system. And I mean, Lance Stevenson was kind of a guy who was slept on also, and kind of always has been, honestly. Second round pick out of the draft, and made a name for himself with that Indiana Pacers team that gave LeBron James and the Heat trouble for a while. But then he went to the Hornets and he went to the Clippers, and it didn't work out for him. But he did get traded to the Memphis Grizzlies, who actually do run a system kind of similar to what the Hawks do. Not as good of a shooting team, obviously, but pride themselves on defense. And Stevenson actually played a lot better than people realize. A lot of people think that he's a guy who can't shoot, but, I mean, he shot 36%, or for the year he shot 39%. From three. And obviously he's going to give you good effort on defense. We saw him give LeBron James a pain in the butt. I just think that if you bring in Lance Stevenson, he's your starting shooting guard right away. And I just think at 25 years old, he can still expand his game with Coach Bud for sure. I think he's a perfect fit for the Hawks. And I think he could come, maybe $8 million, $9 million a year, which – I would much rather give him that money than give Kent Bazemore 12 or 13 or 14 million.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy I like is Joe Johnson, not necessarily as a starter, but big question marks at the 2 and 3, even with going out and getting those guys. I think he's probably going to stay in Miami, but He's a guy who Hawks fans are familiar with and did play a little bit better for Miami. I still think that Kent Bazemore would actually probably give you more production from him than him, but I think Joe Johnson's coming at half the price tag. I mean, I'd like to at least have him as like a guy who comes off the bench. If you have, in my opinion, if you have Joe Johnson and Kyle Korver coming off your bench, you're getting some scoring. And I mean, I don't know, Thabo Sefolosha may be the starting small forward next year, whether we like it or not. If that's the case, Joe Johnson's a guy you add, and that's depth. I mean, he's still a good NBA player and he's a veteran. But I'm not saying he's the guy I want to be our starting shooting guard. A guy that I do like, another guy people are really sleeping on, and most of it's due to injuries, is Eric Gordon. But I think if this kid can stay healthy, he's exactly what the Hawks need, because his injury troubles are probably going to keep him from getting, a real lucrative contract. But this is a guy who, throughout his NBA career, despite the injuries, despite the criticism, he's averaged 17 points per game in his career. And this is a team that has struggled to find a guy who can create his own shot. I think Eric Gordon can create his own shot, but he's also not an isolation-reliant player. I still think he can work in the system, and he also is a career 38% three-point shooter. I just don't think the match could be any more perfect, and the Hawks have to consider him here. He's 27 years old.
Yeah, edit this part out. We probably got to go quicker with these free agents. Okay.
All right, yeah, we'll go quick here. We'll just stop the buy and sell. So, yeah. And then another guy who's on the market is Aaron Afflalo. I'm not necessarily crazy about Afflalo, but he's definitely a guy who, if we sign him, he's going to start, and that allows Kyle Korver to move the bench, and he's going to give you a little bit more scoring production out of that position. And obviously you have, like your DeMar DeRozan. I think he's probably going to LA or going back to Toronto. But some other low-key options, Gerald Henderson, Kevin Martin. I just think the Hawks need to add a guy who can fill it up and can, bail them out and go and get them 15 points a night and shoot, And I think any of those guys, besides Stevenson, I think is really more of a defensive first shooting guard, can do that. So that's what I think the Hawks need to do to address that position.
Yeah. All right. Small forwards. I'm Chandler Parsons, but I'm just reading on Twitter right now that he wants a max contract, $22 million a year. Is he worth it?
Absolutely not. I would add Chandler Parsons at, maybe 13, 14 million, maybe 6. I'd pay him more than I'd pay Kent Bazemore, but there's a 0% chance I'm getting him a max contract. And I also think there's probably a 0% chance he gets it. I mean, he may want it, but he's coming off a down year, and he's just not as marketable as I think he is.
I agree. I think but the thing is, I think Parsons will somehow get a max. There's always an NBA team that does something stupid. I mean, Parsons is a great player. He's not a max player. The other guy I'm looking at, Allen Crabbe out of in Portland, when he needed to step up, when Wesley Matthews left. Wesley Matthews and Nicholas Batum, they left, and Portland needed someone to step up. He definitely did it. I mean, besides C.J. McCollum, and then obviously Damian Lillard, who is the most underrated player and underappreciated player in this league. But Allen Crabbe, he's restricted, so this is more of this is harder to get. But I definitely think Allen Crabbe can definitely do something. He's a great defensive player, and he also can shoot. Very good shooter. And what we got? You said something about Nicholas Batum, right? You think Nicholas Batum could be a good guy?
Yeah, I think that if you know that Al Horford, you talked to Al Horford and you said, we're going to bring on Batum and we'll bring you back with our bird ears, bring you back over the cap. I'm completely fine with that, given the state of the NBA salary cap. Now, I say that because if this were a normal year, I'd say no, he's not worth the max, which I don't think he's really worth the max. I think Batum's a solid player, but I mean, he's a guy coming off a down year last year and really reboosted his stock. We're still going to have that $20 million spike next year and the year after that. So if we do that, we're becoming a significantly better team. And I think that's one of the few cases where we really can do that this offseason. So, yeah, I'm open to giving Nick Batum the max, even though I don't think he deserves it, but only given the current situation.
One other guy, and before I say this, it's a dream. Kevin Durant. I mean, there's probably a 1% chance he will come to Atlanta. I don't even know if it's that high. He's likely going to stay in Oklahoma City and get money, or hell, he could go to Golden State and become the dream team and ruin the NBA.
Yeah.
But if Kevin Durant came to Atlanta, it immediately would be us versus Cleveland for years to come. We don't even need another all the other teams in the conference. It would be us versus Cleveland. It would be an incredible fit, but guys, stop dreaming. I've even stopped dreaming. It's not going to happen, but there's a 1% chance it'll happen.
It's unlikely. The only way I could ever really see that happening is if Kevin Durant just decides that he's exhausted from playing in the West, which if I were an NBA player, I'd maybe take the easy way out and go to the Eastern Conference. But given the move they just made and how close they got to the NBA Finals, I think KD is definitely going back. Now, whether it's going to be like a 1-year max the player option like LeBron James did, I think that may be the case. I think he might run a little bit more of a trial period. But I think he's definitely going back. And I think all the Washington rumors are garbage. One last small forward to talk about here, even though he's restricted, is Evan Fournier. If the Magic are planning on moving Aaron Gordon to small forward after acquiring Serge Ibaka, then they may not bring him back. And he's a guy that fits in perfectly for the Hawks. Stretches the floor, is foreign. I think he's a guy they're definitely going to take a look at.
I got no power forwards, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Mike Scott, hopefully he won't go to jail.
Yeah, that one's been kind of pushed under the table. So the less we hear about that, the better. But if the Hawks know something we don't, they think they'll be without Mike Scott's services next year. I like Mirza Teletovic of the Suns. He's a guy who's still going to stretch the floor for you, but he has a little bit of liability on defense. And then obviously one of my favorite players in the NBA, he's so gritty, is David West, who I think is opting out with the Spurs. I don't know if he's just looking for a little bit more money or what. I would love to have him on board. I don't see it happening, but he is on the market, and it's not the craziest thing that would happen. But let's talk about centers because Al Horford is clearly the biggest question mark for free agency. I think we ultimately bring him back, but if we don't, I don't think Thiago Splitter is a starting center in this league, and it's a center-heavy class. So let's take a look at some guys, and we can go back to buying and selling here because this is a very important position. Let's first talk about Dwight Howard. He could ultimately end up being the guy who replaces Horford if he decides to go elsewhere. He's from Atlanta, but he's also one of the most criticized players in the league. LA didn't work out. Houston hasn't worked out. He just opted out of his player option. But hear me out on this one. A lot of people are turned off by Dwight Howard, but his best years came when he played under a good coach in a small market in a system. And that would be exactly what he would get out of the Atlanta Hawks. And he could still be – I don't want to say he could be the guy, but there's still no guy in Atlanta. It's a team effort. And I think that's what Dwight Howard needs. I think he needs to get out of the spotlight per se, and I think Atlanta's the perfect place for him to continue his career. I just really do. I think he could be a great fit if that's the direction the team goes in.
Yeah, let me add on to that. The media is very unfair to Dwight Howard out of anyone in this league. They give him a bad rep because he's an easy target, and a lot of people believe that Dwight is this prima donna, and he might be. Who knows? But Dwight Howard coming back to his city, playing next to Paul Millsap. I mean, I think that's already. I think that's easily a top 3 front court. I think that's probably one of the best front courts in the NBA. And Dwight averaged last year around 14 points a game and then 12 rebounds a game. He is going to get you boards and he's going to get you points when you get him down in the post. I think Dwight Howard coming to Atlanta, playing under a great coach like Coach Budenholzer, I think it's the best thing for him. And it's not that I want him. It's the fact that I think that would, like I said, that is best for him in his career moving forward.
I think the Hawks would be a better team with Dwight Howard just because they're a top. I mean, he's one of the best defense players in the league. I mean, how many defense player of the year awards he won? And then is already a great defensive team, but he also adds that dimension of being able to attack the board. I mean, this is a guy who, for 6 straight seasons, led the league in defensive rebounding, and his stock is down, and the media has torn this guy apart. But I'm telling you, this guy can still play. He can still play. He can still give you quality offense. He can still give you quality defense.
And the other thing is, when he left the Magic, he ended up going to LA and playing with Kobe Bryant, a scoring first mentality guy who wanted the spotlight. Obviously, that didn't work out. He ended up he signed to Houston. He played with James Harden, another scoring mentality shooting guard. That didn't work out for him. So you look at Atlanta, there's not a selfish player, and there's not really a scoring mentality first guy besides like a Paul Millsap maybe, who we depend on his scoring. Dwight Howard will fit in with this team. He just needs to realize, I think he's going to go to a top contender, and going to the East is an easier path to the NBA Finals, and I think he really wants to go to the finals and before his career ends again. And I think, like we've been saying, Dwight to Atlanta, great fit, great overall pick. I know a lot of people are turned off by it, but it's a great fit whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking a step down on offense, and if we're talking non-rim protection, if we're talking team defense, Al Horford may be a little better, but I think adding that rim protection and the rebounding, overall, Dwight Howard ends up on the defensive side of the ball, still ends up being a better player. And I just think I believe in a true center. And if it could be Al Horford and Dwight Howard as our front court, and we traded Paul Millsap for a great wing, like I'd be happy with that. I feel bad like ripping apart Al Horford, and I'm not ripping him apart, but you know what I'm saying here. I just think there are other players who can offer his production. But one other guy, well, let me just say
Here,
this.
let me go ahead.
Well, let me just add one thing. And also, plan A for the Hawks a few off seasons ago when Coach Bud came in was to bring in Chris Paul and Dwight Howard. So he's shown interest in Dwight before. So he's a name that's worth monitoring. Go ahead. Well, what are you going to say? Because the next thing I have to say
I was going to talk about Gasol.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to lead this into Gasol. But another guy who the Hawks have had reported interest in the past few years is Pau Gasol, and I think he could be, out of all these guys, despite his age, he could be the best fit for the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, Gasol is obviously older. He is played in many NBA Finals. He played a lot with Kobe, and he won with Kobe. And he's kind of like David West from last year in a way that he's looking for a team that is a contender. And if he is plugged into Atlanta, he brings everything in my mind that Al Horford brings, minus the defensive part. But like Gasol can still shoot. But
I think Gasol is still a great defensive player. I think he's
I
a
just don't
very
think he's
underrated
Al Horford,
defender.
though. Al Horford's a very underrated defensive player by the league.
Yeah, definitely. I think Pau Gasol. I think they're both underrated, but I don't think Pau Gasol is that much of a step down. And then when you add in the rebounding, that's where it makes a difference. I think Pau Gasol is a much better rebounder than Al Horford is.
Right. I
And
mean,
he's a better scorer.
yeah, Gasol had around 17 points and 11 rebounds per game. He also had 2 blocks a game, which is something worth mentioning about. I mean, I just talked about how he's not as great as Horford, but he's more of a rim protector. Horford's a great all-around defensive player. It's not the biggest step down. It might not even be a step down, but Pau Gasol is a very underrated player that I hope Atlanta can strike a deal with very early in this free agency period.
Definitely. I mean, this is a guy the last 16 years essentially has been a walking double double. I mean, he broke into the league and took it by force, and he hasn't slowed down. And here he is. He'll be 36 next season, and he's coming off another All Star year. Um, I love the Pau Gasol fit. I do. But son, that being said, the Hawks will still need more help if they sign Gasol. They still need one more guy.
Yeah.
One other guy, highly touted free agent center is Hassan Whiteside. Let's talk about him a little bit. If we're going to go all in on the defense, which the Hawks have, he's had some attitude problems and kind of came out of nowhere, but Hassan Whiteside is definitely one of the most talented centers in the league. What do you think about him?
I think he's going to get a max, and I mean, if he wanted to sign with Atlanta for less than a max, I'd look at it, but I'm not that big on Hassan Whiteside. I think his game's great, but he's got a huge attitude problem. He is what the media portrays Dwight Howard as. He's a prima donna. If he doesn't get his way, he whines. There's been problems in Miami with him, and I don't think that a guy like him would fit in a team like this, an organization like this that keeps their problems very minimal. I don't like it. But like I said, if he wanted under a max, I'd definitely consider it. But he's going to get a max, and we don't need to waste our time. We need to move on.
Well, my thing with him is he's going to get a max, but the thing about him is the sample size isn't there. He's only played a couple of years, but from what I've seen out of him, I think he's worth the max. I think he's one of the top rim protectors in basketball and rebounders, and that's really important. He plays the center position like I think the center position should be played, and I think another thing that's super underrated is his offensive game. You never really hear people say Hassan Whiteside and offense in the same sentence, but I mean, there's a guy who is a 61% field goal shooter. He plays a very efficient game, and he's not going to stretch the floor like Gasol or Horford, but I mean, I think he's even a better rebounder than Dwight, and I think he's better on defense than any of those guys. So he has had his character issues. He's a younger guy, 26, but I mean, if that's something Coach Bud and them think that they can work past, they think that having this kid who led the league in blocks last year can bring them to the next level, then I think it's worth it. As I said, with Gasol, it's going to take more than just this kid, but I mean, I think Whiteside's a great piece to build around, and I think he's hitting the mark at the right time at age 26. I'm more comfortable giving him a 4 or 5 year max than I am giving Al Horford or Dwight Howard as they approach their mid to late 30s, and that's when big men start to break down. And another thing about Whiteside is, he's only played 2 years in the league, and a lot of these big men, they hit their primes a little bit later than these guards, around 27, 28, 29 years old.
and that's what you're getting out of Whiteside. You're getting his prime years if you pay him. So I'm all in on Whiteside. I'd love to bring him on board, but that's just me. It could be a mistake, as I said. It's a small sample size.
Yeah, I'm all out on Whiteside. I don't think Atlanta even waste their time with him. He's a great player, but his attitude issues are a joke. I think free agency is a time where players start to get immature. You see the immature ones compared to the mature ones, and I feel like he's gonna obviously want the most money, but I could see him spurring a team like DeAndre Jordan last year when he said he's going to the Mavericks and then goes back somewhere else. But that's just me. I think Coach Bud and all the Hawks organization, I don't even think they're considering him with everything. But I mean, with that being said, we're talking about high character guys. Al Jefferson, to me, is someone who is serviceable as a center for us. And he didn't start last year, or let me.
He did a little bit. He lost his starting job due to injuries, and he had a little suspension.
Yeah, he was suspended, had his injuries, but he's a very serviceable big man. He's getting older, and his numbers are definitely down from years before. But that's a guy who I could see bringing back a low post presence offensively, especially. He might not be the best defender, but he's a pretty good offensive player in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And what he really should do is talk to his teammate Nick Batum, who is coming off a down year last year, just like Jefferson did, and he went to the Hornets and built his value, and now he's about to get maxed out. Jefferson's been one of the best offensive centers in the league for a while now. I mean, he's throughout his career. I mean, he's about to be 32 next year. He's averaged 17 points per game. His problem has always been 1 second. Dude, okay. Just a little bit longer. 15, 20. Someone fucking interest me one more time. All right.
Wait, dude, before you talk, I'm reading this article. It says the Hawks went from 30-1 to 50-1 now that Jeff T got traded. That's fucking retarded.
Yeah, it was retarded.
Good.
But yeah, Al Jefferson, his rebound numbers were significantly down this year, but so are his minutes. I mean, he can still give you the rebounding. He can give you the scoring. His concern is definitely going to be his defense. And he's had some good defensive years the last few years, but as I said, just a down year for him in general. I don't know. I think Al Jefferson, you give him a 2-year deal, he's a good backup option. And I love Al Jefferson. I think he's a low-key, like, just a stud veteran, and he's played a few seasons with Paul Millsap, so you have that familiarity. He's not a guy that I'm pursuing on the first day of free agency, but Al Horford walks. I think he's, definitely good enough to start us for center and keep us at a high level in the East.
Right, and all these guys, the centers that we're saying, Harrison and I both believe that the Hawks will in fact re-sign Al Horford. Everything's leading up to it. But obviously these are guys that you need to consider if Horford walks. Or, I mean, hell, even if we say, screw it, we're not going with Horford, we'll go with someone else. But the center position is definitely very important for us, and that's probably the prime target for us if Horford walks and trying to re-sign Horford.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you gotta consider all your options because right now we technically don't have a center under contract for next year. So the Hawks will definitely be looking at all these guys. But Al Horford, I've seen him on Twitter still doing Hawks functions and all this stuff. So all signs point towards Al Horford being a Hawk next season.
So I think that wraps everything up about the NBA draft, NBA free agency, and Atlanta Hawks basketball right now.
Yeah, let's do a little Braves talk before we end things here. I want to do a little segment here, and I'm calling it "It's All About the Petersons." We acquired Jace Peterson and Dustin Peterson and those from San Diego last year in the rebuilding trade. And what was I about to say? And now there's no relation between the two, but ever since Jace Peterson came back from AAA, he's been on fire. His last 15 games, he's hitting over 300, and he has an on-base percentage over 400. And they're using him in the leadoff spot some nights, and you obviously see that versatility. So this is a guy who a month ago could barely even hit the ball in AAA, and now he's back on the big stage and he's doing good things.
Yeah, 9 out of his last 10 games he's gotten a hit.
Yeah, Jace Peterson has been a great surprise for the Braves since coming back, and it's great timing too. Right after the team trades Kelly Johnson, we're finally getting some production out of that player, and not only getting production, we're getting production out of a guy who we have under team control through 2021. I'm not saying Jace Peterson is necessarily the answer, but you got Ozzie Albies coming up at second base. Peterson's still a great utility player when you can consider that he can play any position, or he could be a guy that has some value. And going forward, he's a young, cost-controlled guy, and if he can keep this up between now and the deadline, he could be a big piece for the Braves. But I'm more impressed by Dustin Peterson. He's probably the most underrated prospect in this system. This year he has an OPS of 776. He's having his best year in the minor leagues. He's hitting 279 with 7 home runs and 42 RBIs and 12 doubles. He's hitting the ball and he's getting extra base hits. And most guys in this Braves organization are contact guys or the bats, and most of the power bats are in the lower minors. But Peterson's in Mississippi right now, and I think he's due a promotion to Gwinnett by the end of the year. They may have him play out the whole year. He's never gotten promoted mid-season before, but I hope he does. He's 21 years old, and they transitioned him from third base to left field, and Hector Olivera obviously is a huge question mark for the Braves going forward. We don't know what's going to happen with him. This is a kid who potentially could be our starting left fielder next season, and he's a guy who I think he's getting stronger. He's a big kid, but as I say, he's only 21. I think he's a guy who can give you 15 to 20 home runs in the big leagues, and he's not even one of our more highly talked about prospects, and that surprises me. I think he's pretty good. So he's a guy that if you're going to tune in and go down to Mississippi or watch Dansby Swanson, keep an eye on that Dustin Peterson kid. He's going to be damn good too, and he's going to really help the Braves in the future. But obviously, one of the biggest notes from this past week, very disappointing after sweeping the Mets. Mallex Smith leaves with a broken thumb. He's going to be out 6 to 10 weeks, which is truly a bummer.
Exactly.
I've really enjoyed in this dark age season of the Braves. Mallex Smith has been a nice bright spot. Maybe it'll give Ender Inciarte a little bit more time to shine. Pretty much guarantees him center field reps every single day. It'll be interesting to see how the outfield situation shapes up, because you look at the time frame, 6 to 10 weeks. You're looking at trade deadline. You got Markakis and Inciarte, but Markakis is a guy they're looking to trade, and then the day after the deadline, August 1st, is when Olivera returns, and then you can expect Mallex Smith back, 2-3 weeks, within 2-3 weeks of the deadline. So the outfield situation for the Braves is definitely something worth monitoring. But I think Nick Markakis is pretty much as good as gone. Take a look at a team like the Royals, who are desperate to have an outfielder. I think he could be an option for them.
And let me just say this about the Braves. Not talking about any player in specific. I'm talking about them all. This team could easily fold because we're not a good team now. But seeing this resurgence, winning the past 7 of the 8 games, it makes you feel good to watch a team that could easily just fold and crumble and say, we suck, we're trash, we'll wait till next year. Just seeing them play their hardest every game, it truly makes me respect these guys and the fact that they're not just out there saying, let's just play tomorrow, who cares? They're out there trying to win, and it's very respectable.
Yeah, definitely. And, they have been winning. They've won 7 out of their last 10. And the rotation, the pitching looks good. Another guy who appears could be on the move is Bud Norris. A lot of teams have shown interest in him. And ever since we moved him to the bullpen, he's been red hot. And he could bring back a couple prospects also. The Braves team is starting to figure it out a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily going to last. We're a month away from the deadline, and we've got a lot of players that we can move for younger assets. I think most of these guys on 1-year deals aren't in the long-term plans. We've already seen it with Kelly Johnson. We got a nice little bullpen prospect for him, and we saw it last year. We're still in rebuild mode, but it's encouraging to see the young guys do well. Every single time I see a guy like Tehran or Whistler throw a nice game, even though it's one game out of 162 and it doesn't matter, it still gives you a glimpse of hope for the future. And I still believe in what the Braves are doing. It sucks that we're going to have to go through these rough years, but I truly think that Coffey's plan and John Hart's plan can really bring long-term success to the Braves, not a 3 or 4 year, window to maybe win a championship. I think that they can bring back the 90s era when we're, contenders every single year because we're going to be so deep. You look at teams that are just deep in the farm system, and it always translates well. So you look at teams like the Giants and the Cardinals consistently developing talent. I think that's what the Braves are trying to go to here, and we're finally starting to see it at the big league level, and hopefully Swanson and Albies will get a glimpse of them in maybe September. But yeah, Braves are been a lot more fun to watch lately. Winning talks.
Right.
But speaking of the trade deadline, the Red Sox have inquired on Julio Tehran and Aroldis Vizcaino. I think ultimately, even though they say it's a good fit between the Red Sox and the Braves for Tehran, I don't think the Red Sox are going to part with their top prospects like, Moncada, and I just don't see them giving up one of the bats they have up with the team right now as good as they've been.
Right.
Vizcaino is a different story. Vizcaino, a lot of teams are interested in him. As if you're not a winning team, how important is your closer? And he is one of those young, cost-controlled guys, but we're not doing anything this year, and next year we'll probably be competitive, but we probably won't be a playoff team. So you're looking at probably only 2 years of Vizcaino being a closer on a good Braves team. So if you can get an potential impact bat that you can control for 5 or 6, you got to consider that, right?
Yeah. Thing is, like you just said, we're not winning anytime soon. You got to look at all the offers for Vizcaino. Julio Tehran doesn't need to be traded. Like I said in last week's podcast, if he had more run support, he'd have a lot better record. He's one of the few bright spots. Actually, no. He is a bright spot on this team. We have a lot of bright spots, but it's going to take some time. But he's one of the guys right now that is pitching he can pitch very well. There's no point in trading him unless you get unless you can rob a team, basically. I think he needs to stay, but Vizcaino, who knows?
Definitely. I think we may have talked about this on the last podcast, but the thing about Vizcaino is he's putting up great production now, but you also got to consider the fact that he's had Tommy John surgery, and he's been suspended for PEDs. So those are two red flags there. That's one reason why I'd like to see the Braves move him, but he's just so talented. I think he's so good, and I think he's going to be a dominant closer for a while. If I'm the Braves in the current state, I'm looking to trade Markakis and anybody on a one-year deal, but it's going to take a Dansby Swanson type deal to get me to move like a Julio Teheran. And honestly, it's going to take a Dansby Swanson type trade with a much more major league ready bat. But I just don't see the Teheran trade happening. I do see a big trade happening by the trade deadline, though, just because I know John Coppolella can't go that long without making a splash. I think what we could end up seeing happening is, you take a player like Jace Peterson, who's hot and he's young, and, cost control players have a lot of value, but you package him up with a couple of our pitching prospects and you go get a major league ready younger bat. That's something I can see the Braves doing.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of people suggesting that, but nobody was really expecting us in rebuild mode last year to give up our top prospect in the time of Jose Peraza and a young pitcher in Alex Wood. Those weren't exactly the trade candidates, and it still happened. So I think that's one thing that you got to be on the lookout for. A lot of hype about Julio Teheran. I just don't see it happening, but I do think we try to turn some pitching and hitting here.
Yeah.
Well, that just about wraps it up.
No, wait, I got one more thing. Not like last week, we're going to talk about the Falcons. I'll briefly talk about them. Everyone's looking good. Everyone's looking healthy. One thing everyone needs to go do if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, go to the ESPY's website and go vote Julio Jones for football or NFL Player of the Year. I repeat, go vote Julio Jones Player of the Year. And other than that, I think that wraps up our podcast. I'm Michael Arkin with Harrison Coburn, and we'll be back next Friday. Y'all have a great one.
And thanks for listening. Y'all have a good one. You're a fucking faggot, Michael.
Dude, you better keep that part in.
I wonder how long this just was. Jesus.
Dude, yeah, I know.
Let's see. All right, I'm about to end it real quick. But good shit. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, that was
We're getting
good.
better.
Like, dude, we need to keep doing it Friday. We need to stay consistent.
Friday is like the best day for me, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, if Chase bails, like Chase, I think he realized he can't bail again. Like, say, like, oh, I can't do it until like late.
Well, he can't say, like, we clearly like timelined like what time we're gonna do it and stuff. He didn't speak up, so like, that's not my problem. Like, if he had said like I can't do it tomorrow, like we would have rescheduled and stuff. But like when I'm like saying on the podcast we'll be back next Friday, and like last week I already had to tweet like, sorry y'all, like it's gonna be a day late and we're gonna do it Saturday. Like if we do that 2 weeks in a row, like that looks like shit.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
So,
I guess just text me whenever it's ready. All right.
All right, we're probably around like a little after 6 o'clock or something.
All right. See you, dog.
All right, I'll see you.